What is going on, everyone? Astrology Rosen. Welcome to Celestial Conversations from Chaos to Clarity. This is the weekly astrology horoscope where I take a look at those bigger transits happening for the week ahead. I do this from Wednesday through all the way through Tuesday and even into Wednesday of the following week. And so this is for October 29th until November 5th. Hard to believe, but also kind of not, that 2025 is already getting close to its wind down. We're in some really interesting astrology this week. We'll talk about it, but of course, if you want to get a personal astrology reading to find your way out of the fog that Neptune's probably creating and trying to probably show you where some patterns are at so that you can get over those once and for all and actually see a dream vision for your life that you can actually create, that can actually become real, I would reach out for that. I help people get unstuck and realign with their vitality and purpose. That's my MO as an astrologer. I had a reading with someone the other day and they're like, yeah, I'm stuck and I need to realign my purpose. And it always blows my mind when it comes up in readings for people, just connecting the dots. Not just the natal chart, but the transits, the solar arc, the progress charts, the deeper subconscious layers, but helping people make sense of their past wounds and traumas and how they can actually be of service and align with purpose with that, kind of get the ego out of the way. I sometimes think that people hear the word astrologer and they think, oh, you're just going to tell me this and this and this. And I've listened to other astrologers do readings, and no offense to them. I mean, everyone needs to hear like the technical part, but it's like train engineering. I'm like hang gliding with people, it's like, let's go on the adventure and like get the big story and talk about the innovative structures you can actually do to like change your life. So for me, it's, more than, I know how to teach astrology to people, but it's more than just teaching people basic stuff. It's using astrology as a quantum tool to help people get unstuck and get out of that matrix and do what we came here to do. So also, there are still spots available for Higher Self Rising, my group coaching program. That's at Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Central Time. So if you want some consistent follow through with support, that is available. That link will be somewhere around this video. And then, of course, my one-on-one container work for people that really want that guidance and that transformation to go above and beyond and are really ready. And why wouldn't you be? You're worthy of great things. We all are. So let's talk about this astrology this week. The main governance this week, besides the obvious Scorpio season heading into a full moon in Taurus by the end of the week, is the fact that we have Saturn retrograde trining Jupiter for this whole week. Jupiter's slowing down. It's going to be retrograding here in the near future. And so that trine has been lasting. And so this is where we can get right with a sense of purpose, but that vision can be a little bit foggy and it can kind of create like a lazy, droopy feeling. It's like here in St. Louis, it's been like raining and just a lot of like kind of that like, overcast rain, cool weather type vibes. Very much fit the alignment with the shift into Scorpio season and that Neptune retrograding back into Pisces, but it is Scorpio season. We can't dig ourselves out of any subconscious holes of like where we're actually holding ourselves back as a soul because we're getting maybe stuck in a comfort zone or a rut of a routine. I think we have to start really treating our days as like precious. Like it's more than gratitude. It's more than an appreciation of being a spiritual being in a human body that gets to have an experience, but actually like the promise of what we promised ourselves to do with these like really big opportunities. Remember, Jupiter rules opportunities. And so that trine is saying like, hey, it might not feel like the red tape is fully lifted or that, the waters have parted fully because we're still sussing out and clearing out some past stuff and some, feelings that can definitely come up with tiredness and random fluctuations, maybe in our energy level and our focus. But I think we have to really hold ourselves deeply accountable and kind of like watch our thoughts that, we're not recreating the old timelines just by making decisions that are monotonous, that are clearly the same things that we do over and over again. I do think that full moon by the end of the week is going to teach us some value around consistency and momentum around, momentum can be positive or negative. So it depends what it is that we're applying, what it is that we're valuing. Now, we're also seeing Mercury that just entered Sagittarius. This is a big deal too, because Mercury is at fallen Sag. It can get overwhelmed. Too much information to process. Now, I do like that it is, especially making that sextile over to Pluto, it is kind of odd, the quincunx over to Uranus. So there can be some electricity, and excitement and all the possibilities of the things that we can do, but it can also feel like our future, the timelines of things that we're trying to do, the conversations we're trying to have, the sense of passion and evolution in our lives, not just individually, but at a world level. That fog can come up, but then it's also going like, well, how do we not get overwhelmed and feel like we're feeling backlogged or short-circuited or too much central nervous system activity and anxiety, and kind of like, might sound kind of weird, but it's almost like going with the trends a little bit. And usually I say like go against the trends, but it's almost like the trends of understanding that people are waking up and seeing that they've got to go in a different direction as a soul. Like you could take the practical applications of uncertain economics, which that full moon will bring up. It could bring up, just the evolution of AI and technology, that like we're evolving. Everyone pretty much knows that AI is a big thing now, and it has been for a while. It's just now the tools are more in our face, and there's greater possibilities that are available for that too, which is a whole nother ball game. But it's kind of like where we can't keep doing the same like legacy routine over and over again, thinking that that's going to get our dreams going. So this is about not settling for the low-hanging fruit. This is about still dreaming and being spiritual as fuck. And, yeah, sure, do the vision boards and the meditations and like, law of attraction and manifest. That's really good stuff. But I think that there's also some soul evolution to the pioneering part, like make your ancestors proud, like go do the new things and take advantage of those opportunities. Now, the way to make sure that we don't fall into like the bandwagon trends or like the negative ones with this, because we're also going to see Mars trine Saturn and Neptune before Mars goes into Sagittarius this week. So that Mars in Scorpio, we are going to, I think, be looking at those endings that I'm describing of like, what isn't like really soul driving? Like we're just doing the same things, and it's kind of like how to intuitively check in and go, sure, there's all these great possibilities, and the world's moving forward, and people are doing this and this and this trend and this trend and like this conversation and this trending conversation. But it's like really checking in and kind of being detached from it and being like ultra spiritual and kind of being like very ascended master, kind of Jedi-like in a humble spiritual way. That's kind of like know your role and know like when to like really express. Like there's times where it's like we don't need to rock the boat. That Venus is in Libra. It's asking for stability by alignment and thinking and diplomacy, and that's give and take understanding and communications. So if we're not sure what we're aligning with, or we're feeling that fog and that getting stuck energy, basic structures to innovate and get out of it. It's just like to get in alignment. It's just like move the body, shake that shit out, get moving, do some journaling, like just move the energy. Like we don't need to sit in the thick of the fog and like the self-imposed prison of like laziness that can like come up, and laziness could even look like just doing the same patterns over and over again that are kind of escaping the responsibility to craft a really beautiful dream reality that we can actually have by just kind of playing it small. So that Venus that is in Libra, that's also going to be squaring Jupiter this week on the 2nd and making a quincunx over to Saturn. I do think that there is like prosperous like breakthroughs that can be available, but there has to be appreciation and gratitude and a spiritual, humble sort of alignment and just like being on the spiritual circuit. Like the more like you're really in tandem with the spiritual principles, the better things go in like relationships and finance situations. Or it could be kind of like the breakdowns where it's like, whoa, shit, why did that happen? And it's like the universal feedback loop. And I know that's the hard part people don't like to talk about. You know, everyone likes the positive signs and synchronicities, you know, the high vibe stuff of Pisces, but Pisces is also where the drain gets clogged and the backlog, and we need the Drano's not working, and like we've got to deal with like the plumbing issues and actually like get to the roots of, okay, that thing happened, you know, like why did that happen? Like I had my dog fucking, apparently like her big ass like messed up some drywall in my house, like how she did it, I guess threw her body into it. My son had just given her a bath, and so it's like, okay, feng shui, where's that in the home? What do dogs represent? It's like having to like kind of go through the alignments of understanding of like, not so much the psychoanalysis of the why, but just the spiritual feedback of like, okay, like what is this mirroring back in my external reality of what is going on in my environment, what is going on in my energy field. And so that's what I mean by like breakdowns, you know, Pisces, it's like delays, it's very much lessons spiritually, but especially with Saturn there, that makes them very real and tangible lessons that we have to learn. And so we can't use the Scorpio season and try to just gut it out, force our way through, especially if it's like around the same work routines over and over again and just checking boxes and getting things done. Inevitably, it's like it drains us. This is about the free will of like finding our power again by making it more gentle and easy, by like working with spirit and elevating our vibe and our energy to be like, we don't have to be the railroad coal mine work mindset type, you know, or pushing ourselves, forcing ourselves to go towards a trend that our soul's not actually aligning with, especially around like work or creativity or conversations around world topics. And that elevation, it gets to just this higher point of view and perspective. And that's what I help people do in like my sessions that are like with hypnosis and energy work, is like, let's pull out of like these old beliefs and maybe even traumas, like that's just stuck energy that's like created a weird subconscious familiarity of being that's very kind of like Joe Dispenza-like, of like, you got to break that old habit of being that sense of self and kind of get out of that. Now, on November 4th, we are going to see Mars move into Sagittarius and make a quincunx to Uranus and sextile Pluto. So, of course, Uranus retrograde in Gemini and Pluto that is direct, and it's post-shadow in Aquarius, which, you know, it's worth mentioning too that there's restrictions with moving forward. Like we're still very much integrating, especially the parts around where do we get stuck not owning our power fully to choose our higher timeline. And so like with this particular transit, it's kind of going, choose your higher timeline with a strategy, a vision, and be electrifying with the action. Because what I think a lot of this week is going to be showing us, especially with that Mercury that's in its pre-retrograde shadow. So just quick reminder, things get foggy and, you know, with the communications and the thinking stuff, right? I was telling someone earlier, it's kind of like, especially with all this Pisces energy, it's like the buzz that you get before like getting drunk, you know, like there's a change in state and things start to get a little weird, you know, and then when Mercury goes retrograde and Sag, it's kind of like, holy shit, like how much did I have to drink? So we gotta stay aligned. We have to be responsible for where our attention and our energy is going. So for my entrepreneur peeps out there, you know, discernment, decisions, you know, there's gotta be focus. And what I've noticed is that time really slows when we're just focusing and carrying out a divinely timed activity that our soul is vibing with. When we're trying to do things and force things and just get stuff done, the flow is just not there. The focus is just not there. You know, especially for my neurodivergent types, and oftentimes entrepreneurs can be that. So at least half the time, I'd say. Now, on November 5th, we will see that Venus in Libra make quincunx over to Neptune. So this can be a confusion zone around things. A lot of things out in the world, but also more personal things, the things that we value, you know, assets, relationships, that sort of thing. The confusion really, though, gets avoided and kind of go, I can't really figure that out right now. I'm just going to have to kind of see how it balances out. It's about receiving. And so the receiving aspect of like letting more blessings in life, both spiritually and tangibly, comes from that alignment with that strategy and that vision. So this is not a week to like overdo it. We have to accept that there's a part of our soul, I guess you could say, that's been trying to survive since 2011 through this illusion and all this matrix programming that maybe got a little bit addicted to. It could be anything from like the world politics part to the financial economic part to the trying to create safety outside the self through the physicality of manifestation. You know, there's a dark side of manifesting spiritually. It's like we got to find that stability from within. And Uranus, when it comes back into Taurus next month, November, is going to remind us like of that. Like, are we willing to like go to that higher level, and that the stability on the outside is created from the fulfillment of those evolved spiritual values that we feel stabilized in, because it's just us. We're not having to change or overly manage things, especially through the ego. So I'll only briefly cover that full moon in Taurus that peaks out on the 5th. That'll be building this week, because I'll do probably a different video for that, and maybe for all 12 signs. But I will say that it is about letting go of anything we're holding on to that's not of value, especially if it's like yielding consistently like foggy, bad moods, routines, relationship misalignments, especially that the thinking is like out of alignment. Like, just remember, a lot of this astrology is kind of like going to be these really beautiful spiritual lessons when the bombs drop and there's conflict in relationships and communication. How do you handle it? Do you know how to own the values in yourself of like expressing from a place of diplomacy and even being high vibe and ecstatic because you're enjoying the life that you're creating, and you just don't want to sink to that vibration. So it's not judgment, it's not criticism, it's not any of that. It's more just like, gosh, those people are there. I wish they'd like come up here with me and like come and create and, do an awesome life, like heaven on earth, baby. Like, let's go. That's fucking Taurus energy. So anyhow, if you want to book a personal astrology reading, holla at your boy. We'll see you for Celestial Conversations.